Well, g'day, it's John O'Brake here, and I'm bringing you the first of our Monday Myth Check. And Monday Myth Checks are designed to just look at common held beliefs, things that we say, cliches that we use that in and of themselves are true, but when we apply them the wrong way or perhaps use them too often, they're not so true. And so today's Myth Check is the statement that was made during the Apollo 13 mission. We've seen it in the Apollo 13 movie where the flight director said, failure is not an option. And I hear a lot of business leaders say all the time, failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. You know what? Failure is an option. And it's actually not a bad one necessarily. In fact, the reality is as humans, we learn from failure. We learn from those tough times. Now, having said that, I understand in this situation in particular, when this quote was kind of coined, and there were lives at stake. They wanted to get all the astronauts back to Earth. They didn't want anyone to die. And so failure was not an option in terms of the lives at stake, in terms of the outcomes that they got. Now, the challenge is I hear business people today saying failure is not an option. I hear leaders saying it to their team members. I hear business owners saying it to their staff or to their team. And the challenge there is you're at risk of creating a space where failure is not an option. So what happens is not so much that you motivate your team to get it right, is that you motivate your team to avoid getting it wrong. And so one of the challenges that you end up having is that you have a team that is afraid to fail. You have a team that will not innovate, that if they bring up new ideas. And so what happens is you end up having a business that doesn't have that same creative sort of space, doesn't have the innovation that it needs. And so eventually you have a business that will fail. And so I want you to think about today, if you've really brought in this mentality into your business that failure is not an option, I want you to stop and think, where can failure serve you? How do you fail forward, as the term might be? So that means that as we do go through situations and we create a space where our leaders and our teams can actually get things wrong, but learn from them, then that becomes a much better place. So what we want to do is we want to take failure and we want to learn from it, okay? So I grew up in the coaching space where we looked at failure as the steps that it could be, and we started to reframe this whole idea of failure. We need to stop fearing failure. We need to embrace it. We need to learn from it, and we need to grow through it. So what I want you to do as an action step from this is go back to your team, and I want you to think about how can you create a space that might be an innovation space? How can you create a space amongst your team where they can come up with crazy ideas, where they can even try some stuff? Maybe do it in a safe space. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want to hurt clients. We've got to watch the business. We still need to be careful of those things, but have a think about how can you deliberately create a space where people can innovate, can be creative, and, they can learn from their failure. If you could do that, I think you could start by creating a great space where failure is an option. Failure's okay, but it's only okay if we actually learn from it, if we grow through it. By the way, going back to the NASA story, I'm sure they learned a lot from that mission in terms of then the next missions that went up, and obviously the ones prior as well. So failure is an option. I want you to take that on board today. I'm standing here on my back deck in North Carolina, and we're having our first snow of the year. So it's really cold. So I had to capture that backdrop today. I'm looking forward to getting back inside. I'm John O'Brake. As always, enjoy the journey.